Need advert placements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. ANEKE TV, move with the world.
Beyond the news for today, issues will be well critically analyzed. And joining us for today's The Week in Retrospect is highly respected ANEKE TV in-house analyst, Mr. Res Arum. It's a pleasure to have you on The Week in Retrospect.
Thank you. You're welcome to our program on this Saturday.
All right. And again, a man who was with us last week is equally here, speaking to Dr. Ima Ago. Doc, it's a pleasure to see you one more time this weekend.
Thank you once again for having me.
All right. And then moving on, before we get to the issues, there is celebration before us.
Yes, so we'd like to give a very big shout out to Pastor Mrs. Blessed Uche Kalu, and on behalf of ANEKE TV and everyone here today, we're saying a happy birthday to you.
All right. Yeah. Happy birthday to Pastor Blessed Uche Kalu. We wish you many more years, in many more prosperous, healthy years. And next time we will be there to enjoy the rice and the cake with you. Yes.
All right, now moving over to our Week in Retrospect today, we'll be starting our newspaper from The Nation, Vanguard, Weekend, and also The Guardian newspaper. Now on The Nation headline, the headline there says, Kwara killings, how terrorists load victims with prayer calls. And also from the Weekend paper says, 7 trillion naira for presidents, Nigeria still in darkness. And on the Guardian paper says, ANEKE rally security agencies ahead of 2027.
All right, let's start from the Guardian newspaper. ANEKE is in the eye of the storm. When we'll hear ANEKE this period, we'll speak to electoral issues, the electoral out. But this morning, we have been told that ANEKE is rallying the security agencies, where the chairman of ANEKE, Amupitan, has had a meeting with the security agencies, praised them for their forthrightness, their activeness, especially given the conduct of the Anambra election, where, according to him, security made significant impact, and he is telling them that 2026 is an electoral year that would just not see the elections of local government elections. There will be off-cycle elections as well, speaking to governorship races in some states, and preparation for the almighty general election in 2027. There is need for them to harmonize between the sister agencies, the intelligence, the army, the police, with ANEKE going forward. And in that meeting, the chairman, like I did mention, did commend security agencies that without them, we may not have what will be termed to be a free election. That citizens can go into poll being scared, being afraid. That in that way, you cannot say that there will be, or there is such an election will be said to be free. Mr. Res, let's get into this conversation.
That's a good start for Professor Amopitan to call the security agencies and discuss with them on the way forward. More so when Nigeria is plagued with a lot of insecurity problems. And then you're talking about elections. There are going to be elections before the general elections of 2027. And in the election in Anambra, of course, it's a staggered election, had so many security personnel in that Anambra elections. Yet, it's not as if maybe all was rosy. But at the end of the day, it was kudos for the security agencies because the election went well, in quotes, and the elections coming like in Ondo and I believe Oshun.
Oshun?
Yes. Elections in Ondo and Oshun will also be guided by heavy security personnel. Amupitan's discussion with the security agencies is an idea to ensure that police and other security agencies will work in synergy. We're talking about even the military, the uh, the the what do you call the civilian
The civil defense?
civil defense, and all of them work in synergy to ensure that there'll be security of lives and property in the course of that election. And you see, with this security crisis in Nigeria, I call it security crisis because, Nigerian security agencies don't seem to adequately confront the forages of the terrorists and bandits across the nation. Since after the American bombing in Nigeria, there's been an increase in banditry, kidnapping, and of course killings, which has attracted attention of the world, including the United Nations and many other countries of the world, are beginning to comment about the problem in Nigeria. So it has become severe that insecurity has not been contained or is not being contained by the security agencies. So a lot has to be done. And then with that insecurity, insecurity in place, thriving, the elections will have to be Herculean for the INEC because the security agencies are going to be both confronting the initial problem that has been there before elections and of course add it up with the insecurity that may rear its head up as a result of the election. So you see, it's going to be a compounded problem at that level.
All right. Doc, let me bring you to this discussion. Given the myriad of security challenge that Nigeria is witnessing, do you have faith in the ability of our security network to ensure a credible election, not a policed election, a militarized election, but a civil election like we witnessed in the case of Anambra State?
Thank you very much. The idea about security in every election has become, security concern in every election has become inevitable. And this has come from so many principal actors in the electioneering process. You have the candidates who may want to win at all costs. You have the voters who will equally want to do all manner of things to ensure that their candidates win. And you also have ANEKE, who in some cases have not lived up to expectation in terms of doing what they ought to have done to ensure that the election comes up well. Sometimes you see lateness in arrival of electoral materials and all this and other logistic issues and bottlenecks. So I think security to a very large extent is not even should not even be something that will be left, that should be left for security agencies alone. Improper management of entire election itself can constitute a major challenge to that security concern. It's just that my colleague here has talked about insurgency, banditry, which is also part of it. But I sincerely hope that we have to be proactive in all these electioneering processes. Proactive in the sense that there are certain things that you need to put in place and security concerns will be to a very great extent reduced, if not eliminated, because things will just flow naturally. So that is just the way I want to look at it. So concentrating on security agencies may not really give us what we want, because they themselves have concerns, challenges, and other problems. So they may not really give you what you want if other components are not really functioning at optimal capacity. Thank you so
All
much.
right, functioning at optimal capacity. But Mr. Rest, before I rest this very issue, let's look at the marriage between the situation on ground. Given that, like you did, security agencies are bedeviled with confronting the security issues going into 2027 election and the off-cycle elections that we'll have in 2026. How do you expect or see the security agencies being able to marry that primary security issues and their responsibility in election? Because one thing is certain, that there has to be security for an election to be said to be credible.
Yeah, that is why I said that the security agencies will be grappling with the existing security issues in Nigeria. And when we are talking about security issues, the problem with security is almost soaring because since after the American intervention in Nigeria, there's been more problems than we have had before the intervention. We have seen the 177 kidnap. We have seen, of course, most recently the 150 almost mowed down, although the official record is talking about 70 something. But the unofficial record is saying about 150 mowed down in a community. And this is a community where these terrorists came in and called for prayers and all that. You say you call people to come out for prayers, and at the end of the day, what you are doing is to mow them down. So these are problems. So with the security agencies grappling with that, of course, they could not even respond early enough. They responded after 10 hours. And we are talking about responses. So how do security agencies that could not respond to a call, a distress call, it takes them about 10 hours to respond to it, how could the same security agency grappling with the existing security problems be able to also man elections that's going to be held nationwide? You see, which means the terrorists will be left with a field day, to operate because they will be overwhelmed by the problems at hand. Overwhelmed. So I think we should be thinking out of the box. We should be thinking about getting more security personnel. That is Nigeria as a whole, getting more persons into the security setup apparatus so as to contain what problems we are going to have within the period in question.
All right, and those problems has to be contended with for us to have a credible election.
Yes, of course.
All right.
Thank you very much for that. Now I'll be moving over to our next paper from the Weekend Trust. And that paper headline says 7 trillion naira for president, Nigeria still in darkness.
Doctor, let me start with you. When we see this headline, Doctor, when you see a headline like this, what comes to your mind? 7 trillion for presidents, and we're still grappling with darkness. What comes to your mind?
Well, it doesn't.
This is not a pleasant, report. 7 trillion naira and nothing has come out of it for president. It means that so much and even more we have to be, we have to be spended to ensure that there is power supply that doesn't go off. And what I know is that the issue of power supply in Nigeria has not really been tackled the way it should. I think they just want to use it to play politics. You can imagine Nigeria in 21st century still grappling with power generation, distribution and supply. It doesn't really tell good about us. I had expected a proactive system to go to countries where things are working to look at what is it that you people have done to ensure that we are going to get it right this time. It's not, if you keep trying something without infusing new things into it, you may not get a different result. Go to Egypt, go to other parts of the world, like go to South Africa, go to Angola, go there and find out what is it that they have done in their power sector that has made a very good difference, and find out whether you can replicate such ideas and get a better result. And not trying one keep you keep trying one thing and expect a different result.
All right. Mr. Rice, let me bring you in into the conversation. And we are looking at the issue of power in Nigeria, where we've spent 7 trillion over 4 presidents, yet the country is still in darkness. And I ask you, is the problem mainly about money, or is it more about weak institutions, poor regulations, or lack of consequences for failure?
Well, this issue about power in Nigeria has been talked and talked and talked about. A lot of English has been spoken about lack of power in Nigeria. And let me not be a prophet of doom, too. There may not be power in Nigeria in these coming years, in the nearest future, if things continue to go the way it is. Tell me, how could about 4 presidents have spent 7 trillion, and today you have less than almost about 3,000 megawatts in the whole Nigeria? And then you go to other nations, smaller nations, and they have almost steady power supply. I'm talking about West African nations in the West African sub-region. I'm not talking about the Western world. We started with the likes of India. And today, nobody is talking about power failure in India. We started, of course, countries like Malaysia came in here to even pick the agro produce, which they used to become the best in such production in the world. Yet nobody talks about power failure in such nations. I'm talking about smaller nations within the West African and African, sub-Saharan African region. We are talking about such nations, and they have power in their countries. And you are saying that about 4 presidents have put in about 7 trillion, yet we don't have power. Then what the problem is that we should ask ourselves, how has corruption come into play a role in what we're doing in the power sector? And not just the power sector, we are in most of the sectors. Because tell me the sector that we have done very well that will begin to challenge other nations to say Nigeria will beat our heads, beat our chest, and say Nigerians are doing very well. Tell me that sector that is not sabotage, that is not manipulated with the corruption tendencies of Nigerians. Tell me why we should not produce petroleum product when we have refineries here. Tell me why the refineries are not working. Is it not the same thing with the power sector, where you're plunging in money and it's going? The refineries, we plunge in money and it's going, and nobody gives account. The 4 presidents, have they been able to give account? Has any of the graft agencies called on and investigated why it is so? Has any? It is a systemic. It is a systemic thing. It's a systemic corruption. Okay, I call it. It's not even systemic. Endemic. It is even endemic. So you find out that we cannot go further. Nigeria cannot develop without power. We cannot develop. That is why we are moving 2 steps forward, and then we move about 5 steps backward. Tomorrow you say it is 5,000 megawatts in just 1 week. In just 1 week, less than 1 week. It is now 3,000. And very soon it might go down to 1,000 megawatts. And then you find out that Nigeria is totally in darkness. And we are not even, like he said, my colleague here said, that you continue to do one thing and get the same result. You cannot change. You must apply certain different measures to expect a better change. Have we been able to think about going into other sources of power production? Every day one is talking about gas. Look at gas. We have one of the largest deposits of gas in the world. And somebody is saying there's no gas to run the electricity turbines for power production. It is, oh, my brother, I don't know how to describe it, but it is not good for Nigeria. Nigeria is doomed. Insofar as we continue to go this way, we are doomed. Look at it, 7 trillion. When you talk about 7 trillion, it is not just one small money. We are talking about several $billion that we have sunk into the power sector, and nothing has come out of it other than 2,000, 3,000 megawatts. How can that be in any other country? Has all these other countries done this way or gone this way and they got to where they are? No. You can't go to any country and it so happens, and people will continue to survive. And people who are vested with such responsibility will be in their homes, eating and drinking, whining and dining with their cronies, and enjoying life with their because nobody makes a demand on the system. Nobody asks questions. Nobody wants to know what happens to Nigeria. People are nonchalant about anything, and anything goes in Nigeria. That is exactly what it is. So when we talk about factors that are inherent in Nigeria, of course, corruption is a big factor.
All right, corruption is a big factor. Dr. Ima, who should we hold accountable because for the mismatch between the huge power spending and the reality on ground? Is it the politicians, the regulators, or private operators? Who do we hold accountable? Because he spoke to corruption, being the bedrock of this very challenge.
Well, whenever you talk about corruption being systemic, you are looking at all the components acting as accomplices. In a system, you have the government, you have the masses, you even have organized private sector. Then on the part of government, large sum of money has been spent and no result. Then on the part of citizens, to what extent have they been able to demand for accountability? Then on the part of organized private sector, who is even asking questions? Who is even doing what we call budget tracking? So all these things sit. And let me tell you, if you go to any developed country in the world, behind it, you will see a very vibrant organized private sector. That is just that. You cannot get what you want without having a vibrant, functional private sector. Do you understand? I mean civil society. If I say private sector, I'm talking in terms of civil society. Organized civil society that looks into what happens. To a very large extent, I think in Nigeria, corruption is systemic. Everybody is involved. Even if you go to offices, go to schools, go to small businesses, you will see what's... In fact, I was talking to the other man yesterday, my friend, and I told him that I don't know what we are going to see in the next 5-10 years. At every point of service delivery in this country, you go there, you cry. Go to schools. See the way admissions are run, racketeering. Go to hospitals. In fact, you see yourself paying for a non-existent services. Or is it even the power supply? Go to such offices, EEDC or whatever it's called, and see the way in fact, none of them wants to listen to complaints. I think to a very large extent, when you talk about responsibility, at the other side, you also talk about responsiveness. And when you talk about satisfaction, at the other side, you also talk about satisfactoriness. Do you understand? To what extent are all these institutions alive to their responsibility? You get complaints. In fact, I can't continue to give you litany of frustrations which Nigerians meet whenever to go to get services which they have paid for. So I think apart from all these things that we are saying, even the so-called, I don't know whether to call it NEPA, because they keep changing them. But I think they are one of the most corrupt institutions in Nigeria. I want to say it unequivocally. You don't get services for what you get, for what you pay for, and so on and so forth. You talk about corruption. I think to a very large extent, Nigerians are still responsible for all this.
Nigerians are still responsible for this.
Good.
How?
We don't demand accountability from our leaders. And when things don't go the way we expect, we keep quiet, pushing somebody to the wall, and the person find a comfortable position in that wall and remain there. That is our attitude. Look at what is happening now, electoral reform crisis. Nothing, in fact, I have not seen enough. This is the only last chance that we have. You know, I told you, for you to get things right in Nigeria, it is only through credible election. That is for me. The one we had in Abia State is a mistake. I keep saying it. LSOT in Abia State was a mistake because it fell out from their hands. And they even struggled to pick it back. But thank God for that professor woman, Oti, who resisted and who insisted that the right must be done. And look at how they are enjoying. Do you understand?
All right, all right.
So election, if we get our elections proper, all these things we are talking about, institutions, corruption, all these things will go. And in less than 4 years, Nigeria will change irreversibly.
Okay.
So that is just my take on it.
Mr. Rees, if you had to recommend 3 immediate steps to correct this anomaly, what would that be?
Leadership. The moment we get the right leadership, every other thing will fall in place. We have to face corruption headlong and exterminate it in Nigeria. If it entails making a stringent law, although people are talking about death sentence as not being good, but I think the Asian countries that put place death sentence on certain things, like drug, fraud, and all that, I begin to see the result of such stringent conditions for big crimes like that. The crime of sabotaging production of electricity, sabotaging the health sector, sabotaging all the other sectors is a super crime to Nigeria. Therefore, we should begin to make laws. Then, the third one, our institutions has to be strengthened. Like I said, the civil society groups, they will have to have strong institutions. Like if we have ICPC, for instance, it will be strong enough, supported by civil society groups, to live up to their responsibility. If we have the EFCC, it will be, it will be untied from the apron strings of the leadership of the country, so that they won't be used as political tools to, work on people who are not for the government in place. But it will be independent and go for corruption charges and truly for corruption charges. At least these 3 issues, the leadership, the laws, and of course the strong institutions, will help to correct the anomaly. Then finally, we should be able to think about, like of course the elections, that's the leadership, when you get it right. And now we have one super problem on our hands: to transmit election results from the polling units. If the National Assembly refuses to give us that, then this is another problem they have created for us to continue to live on the inefficiencies of government in Nigeria.
All right, inefficiencies of government in Nigeria, well put together. And let's move on to the next.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now, next paper is coming from the Nation newspaper, and the headline there says, Kwara killings, how terrorists load victims with prayer call. Mr. Ochad likes me.
All right, looking at the issue in Kwara State, a very sorry one at that. We're looking at the mauling of over 75 individuals, human lives in Woro Nuku communities around Kema local government area of Kwara State, where government official, the official number is 75, but the figures coming out from the inhabitants, the villagers, tell us that despite the fact that a lot of individual bodies have been carted away, buried, there are still corpses littering in the bush and the surroundings. And it becomes a sorry state that at this time, despite everything, that you are reactionary to these issues. We've not been able to stem the tide in terms of being proactive to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Yet, despite rhetorics, it continues to happen. Mr. Rest, let's get into this very conversation. It has happened again and again. A good number of times, people critique and criticize these issues, who hear rhetorics from people that matter. This time around, the United Nations is equally criticizing the killing of Nigerians in Nigeria when the country is said not to be at war. We've heard from Turkey, our new ally, condemning the situation as well. But of more worrisome is the fact, and that's where I'm bringing you in, that there is information that call was put through, but before help could come, it took 10 hours. Call was put through by 5 p.m. and by 3 a.m., that was when help came. And when it came, it wasn't to the bandits who were said to have taken break to go eat, then resume their killing. By the time the soldiers responded, they had already gone. What are we witnessing here? Is it that these terrorists, these Islamists, who were told called for prayers to lure people out and had requested before this time around to be allowed to preach in this community, to indoctrinate the people into their new nefarious belief, and then in turn took these ones to their grave? Where are we at?
I think we have, I believe, now I just don't think, I believe we have in our constitution freedom of worship in Nigeria. But this issue of freedom of worship, nobody cares, nobody implements, and that is why there are claims and counterclaims of genocide. Now, tell me, I said it sometime on air like this. If the American president wants to come to Nigeria, it will take him about at most 5 hours from Washington to Nigeria. If it's the Boeing plane, normal Boeing plane, it will take about 8 to 10 hours to be in Nigeria, direct flight. Tell me, the Air Force that was called, or whichever agency that was called, could not arrive until it was about 10 hours. Tell me, sometime people were kidnapped, and the agencies, even government officials, even the local government chairman who was supposed to know what was happening, who was the security officer of the local government chief, to know that such thing happened in that local government in Kaduna State, denied there was such a thing. Tell me why there should be such denials. If it is not that, tell me what would have actually stopped the security agencies. And of course, there are nearby security, camps within Kwara area. Within Kwara area. It couldn't have taken them anything more than 2 hours to get there by road. Tell me why the security agencies were not on hand to, of course, save some people, save some of the maladies that took place in that place. It was as bad as that. We have seen Nigeria not being proactive. Each time anything happens, you see the president, everybody, they would deploy. Now the president has ordered for the deployment of a battalion. What is this battalion going to do there? Are they going to bring back about over 100 persons, counting, that died? Are they going to bring them back to life? Are they going to bring back the carnage that has happened in Kwara? What are they going to do? Are they going to track and get these people that committed these atrocities? Tell me exactly why. And look at countries of the world, each talking and saying, how can Nigerians be killed in their own country where there's no war in that number? When terrorism came into this country, nobody took it serious. And today, you are saying that Nigeria has become a hub of terrorism in the sub-Saharan Africa. A hub. Because there are various terrorist groups in Nigeria presently. And that's why it is difficult for the security agencies to match them. That's why it's difficult for security agencies to track them. We're talking about technology. The Nigerian government, just like they are playing with the power sector, they're also playing with security. Because tell me, if we do not have money, you have removed fuel subsidy, and you have enough money at your disposal to get, technology deployed to the, fight against insurgency. Technology, we are talking about technology. In 21st century, like my colleague here said, in 21st century, for Christ's sake, you have 4 satellites in orbit. And you cannot even track anything. You can't track the criminals. You cannot track anything. You cannot say this is exactly what is going on in Nigeria. And you have this. Get drones, you cannot get them. We are just speaking grammar in Turkey. We are going to collaborate with Turkey. Turkey is one of the countries that knows to manufacture. They have drone technology that's very cheap. Because when you're talking about technology, you talk about cheap technology that is efficient. Have we gotten them? Have we tried? Did we use drones? When Nigeria Army got just one drone, it was celebrated. Just one. And that one was even a low-level drone they used to do some tracking in Sabisa. How can't we even buy these drones? Are we saying we do not have money? Security is a primary responsibility. We can, see trillions that's been wasted on power, yet we don't have it. So if we have used a quarter of such money to get technology for security of lives and property, I think it will be better if it is not sabotaged. But tell me, you vote monies to security agencies, and I still wonder if these things are paid for, and if these things are also taken into this country. That is what you paid for, or is the money, siphoned? Has this money been tracked? Which companies are you? Of course, there are security things, but there are agencies that could track and know if these things were supplied, and so on. In fact, a whole lot of things are very wrong in Nigeria.
All right.
And that is why we are having such, a situation in our country.
All right. One more thing. If I follow your line of thoughts, you are saying that perhaps this may not be the last of such killings that will happen in Nigeria.
What do you expect? Are you expecting a magic from the security agencies? The magic, will it start now? Will it start today? Will it start yesterday? Will it start with the battalion set? How many soldiers do you have in Nigeria? And if you even have enough, but you don't. Police, you don't have enough. civil defense. You don't have enough. You don't have enough for a 200 million people.
But Mr. Rest, what are we expecting now that we are told that the US now have boots on ground? A tactical special unit from the IG of police has been dispatched. The army, yes, you observe, in obedience to the president's order, has dispatched a battalion. You're not saying that this tide may spiral to the boundaries because Kwara is bounded by Osun State.
Let them tell us within the shortest time that they have rounded up the corporates. And then we'll begin to think that there's something they could do otherwise. Have we gotten the people kidnapped in Kaduna? Have we gotten, except for those who ran away from the bush?
Yeah, the good number has been released. We have few.
Few released. Have we gotten all of them? Have we even gotten back the Chibok girls of many years back? Have we even gotten all of them back? And so on and so forth. You see, it is a story of many tales in Nigeria about terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, and all have you. Tell me exactly, where do we go from here? What is the fate of the commoners, the Nigerians? What is their fate in the midst of security? The same security, which of course I might not call proactive security. Yet Nigerians are being mowed down with reckless abandon. I wonder.
All right. All right. Where do we go from here, Doug? A number of times we'll speak to these issues, but I want us to take a different turn this time around in terms of profiling solution. What can we do? He's asking the question, where do we go from here? And where do we go from here could be, what do we do differently? So I'm asking Doc, what can we do differently to see that there is no reoccurrence of such incidents?
Thank you so much. I am particularly pained by the report. But one thing is clear. Sometimes we try to be politically correct. Myself, I don't like, I am not a man who always like to be politically correct. I think there is this inextricable link between the powers that be and these terrorists. Now let us try to analyze this. Let us do a critical analysis of this. If there is a kidnapping incident of more than 100 persons, and after some days they will tell you that a certain number has been released, where do they get the money? Because I know ransom, they will not tell you that they paid.
No, we are not told that.
No, wait,
Doc, just calm down a
bit.
Wait,
I am still doing it.
Doc, just become a bit.
Okay. There is enough kinetic and non-kinetic.
We've been told that they are non-kinetic approach. Nobody has come out to say that ransom was paid. And is within the purview of the government to ever employ a kinetic or non-kinetic approach. So these are inclusive in what government is doing to say that these citizens return home.
I am still trying to analyze, because we are looking at the cyclic movement of money coming from somewhere, getting to somewhere, and something now happens, maybe release of those captives, and I think there is this, the whole thing has been politicized. I told you the other day that some political radical elements would want to intensify these kidnapping incidents to paint this present government just like what they did to Goodluck Jonathan. But I think also that the government is not doing enough. How can you tell me that there are no state actors somewhere in Nigerian bushes and in less than 24 hours they are still alive in this 21st century? It is unbelievable. And you know how swift Nigerians went to Benin Republic to foil a coup attempt. All these things don't join. It doesn't join. Remember when they said infiltration of Nigerian army? Remember they said, where did this repented Boko Haram, have they really repented? Somebody who has become a radical after small things, is now in decision-making position. So all this is, but what's the warning I want to sound is this: if these killings continue, I just want them to listen to me. If these killings continue in Nigeria, it will get to a point where there will be general breakdown of law and order. And what happened in Central African Republic will be the case of Nigeria. You woke up one day, you see corpses of all the terror. People know them. People can deal with them. But you always use the army and police and other military and paramilitary agencies to stop people from taking reprisal. Who are they? Every day, listen, there are certain group of people in Nigeria that cannot continue to stomach all these things. I don't want to mention them, but I know one day the killings will get to them and there will be general breakdown of law and order. So they say that the army and police cannot even stop people from taking reprisal. That is warning I am sounding. Because Nigerians are awake. Nigerians see these things and Nigerians are not happy. How can you tell me that somebody will go into an area and you're telling me that people are not allowed to possess firearms? Somebody will go and kill up to 100, 200, and after some time you don't hear anything about it again. And Nigerians will keep quiet. Remember what Danjuma said, that there is this collusion. He said it. And for somebody in that height who must have known certain informations, sometimes we call it classified information, but I think he has come out in the open to tell us, you better go and defend yourself. Organize yourselves in your communities. Forget about these things, army. And there are certain things I will not come here to tell you because I know this is what must have happened. Because whenever sometimes somebody opens up and tell you this, how did Shetima end up as Tinubu's deputy? What was his background?
Anyways,
and so many principal officers of this administration. So let us not go into that. I am particularly not happy about all these things.
Excuse me.
Somebody will go into somebody's community and kill more than 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, up to 200, and it will just go like that.
No, Doc, when you sound this way, it's as if there's no hope for the country. You know, speaking to who the vice president was, he has a pedigree. He was a governor and he has a pedigree in APC. He deserves, like any other person, to be the vice president of Nigeria. That's not in doubt. What is the question here is that Nigerians are being killed in a country that's not at war. But what I'm asking you is, beyond everything that you've said, what I'm asking is this. You are not advocating self-help. I'm asking you, this situation, you feel that the Nigerian army, the Nigerian security is already overwhelmed.
We are not overwhelmed. If you ask me this 20 times, I will answer this question 21 times. Nigerian army has the capacity. Nigerian army is one of the best in the entire southern hemisphere.
All right.
It is not about capacity. It is about will. It is about organized agreement that is done somewhere. I am telling you what I know. Right. Muslim ticket is demonic and must not allow to continue. Otherwise, you cannot tell me that somebody will come into Nigeria and kill 10 persons and that person will steal their life in the next one hour.
Doc,
where are you coming from?
All right, let's take it at that. We speak to the will. You know, because the information available, the facts available is that Muslims were killed for refusing to.
They are Nigerians.
These are
Nigerians are killed. Yes. I don't want to talk about Christians and Muslims. But I am so angry that
it's good that
Nigerians died inside Nigeria, and up till now we are still looking for those people that did it.
Good. You've made the right statement. Nigerians were killed in Nigeria. It's not about religion. These are Nigerians. But Mr. Ress, moving forward, what can we actually, as a people, do to see that there's no reoccurrence?
Well, do we even have what we can do? Because you see, if Nigeria is this way, then it means Nigeria do not have any solution to their problem, since they cannot extricate corrupt practices in their system. Now, take a look at the situation about former Attorney General of the Federation. Could anybody believe that those allegations that were heaped against him, that it could, result in prosecution. Attorney General, Minister for Justice, that he was funding terrorism. Of course, the chairman of EFCC then was relieved of his job because of him, because of that allegation. But thank God, they further followed this allegation when he got out of office. And after his arrest, investigations revealed, and is now being prosecuted, that he even had stockpile of arms in his home. And then you now see that some of those who are in government are involved in what is happening in Nigeria. So, what do you do when it's an inside job? Those you have ceded your franchise to, those you have given the responsibility to govern and manage your affairs, finance everything about your livelihood as a country, are particularly involved in unleashing mayhem on the people. So what do? It is only if the Nigerian people will rise to the occasion. He said that sometime in Central African Republic, that was former ruled by Emperor Boku Bokassa, that anarchy became the order of the day because people were disenchanted about what was going on. That may be the best way to Nigerian leaders, because we're beginning to see the leaders have failed us. Leaders have failed us, and now they are refusing that we should elect a leader of choice. They are refusing. The same leaders are ganging up to refuse Nigerians from getting free, fair, and credible elections. And you expect there's something working. What can we do? We have to stem the tide of corruption, and it will start from each one of us as an individual. That is
All right. Doc, to rest this issue, there must be solution somewhere. So let's get what you have as solution to this issue.
Thank you very much. Number one, and this number one is almost being taken away from us. If really we are interested in continuing as one in this country, the only way out is election, credible election. And it appears as this may not come to us as we have been praying. If we have good election and greater number of people are now saying, let us do it this way, I think this man has a better package to security, which is going to protect greater number of people in Nigeria. I think is a solution if we look at electoral reform. Because I told you that the panacea, the only solution of all solutions, is when you have credible, free and fair election. Everything falls in place. Another solution is, if these things continue, I think the only thing is just for us to discuss whether we are going to stay together. Because if government cannot protect me, I don't know why we should continue staying together under one umbrella.
All right.
Because it is still a solution.
All right.
If we try to divide Nigeria along these religious, ethnic lines, where they have all this homogeneity.
All right. Your points are well noted, but one thing that is obvious is that Nigerians love being Nigerians and they want to be together. When they discuss is how to move the nation forward, that's the one acceptable position of all Nigerians. Then, maybe on some other forums, we may be able to digest the link between the Islamist operations around and in Nigeria with free, fair, and credible election.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we're moving over to our next paper coming from Monday newspaper and from the Nation paper. It says General producer how coup attempt was forwarded planning stage. And also from the Punch newspaper says travels, presidency spent 34 billion naira on forex in 2 years. And Daily Trust paper says Tinubu abroad 22 days in 1 month. And on the Guardian paper, it says Nigerians turn to survival businesses as form of jobs dry up. Mr. Childlike.
All right. All right. Let me just bring in Mr. Rice immediately. We are looking at a point where we are told that just amount has been expended on foreign trips. Bulk of it used in the maintaining of the what Nigerians will term our own Air Force One.
It has always been the case when we talk about the use of money by government to maintain. We have the turnaround maintenance of refineries, huge sums of money were spent. We have the turnaround maintenance of Air Force One and the fleet. Of course, huge sums were spent. We had the renovation of President, Vice President, this house and that house, House of Reps and all that. We have the huge sums are taken. So, which these huge sums are they justified? What are the people that are managing our resources doing with money? That is why we have talked about credible leadership that we begin, and that is why we have talked about changing our presidential system borrowed from the United States to a more compact government that will, help us to make the best judicious use of money. These things are big expenditures for Nigeria, especially a developing country like ours. The greater percentage of the populace are in penury. And for us, we want a situation where these monies will be channeled towards production. These productions are the things channeled towards technology, power sector, petroleum product refining. These things will boost the economy and increase our gross domestic product (GDP), and of course create jobs for the teeming population. And Nigeria will become stable for it. We will begin to now call our country our own in real, way that we should. Otherwise, we are in a problem and will continue to be in such problem.
All right.
Okay, now to our next paper coming from Tuesday newspaper from the Nation. The Nation says federal government to share costs to states, councils. And also from the Vanguard paper says state government now to share payment of electricity subsidy, says federal government. And on the Punch paper says big money, small impact. Governors face fire over 9 trillion naira FAAC windfall. And then on the Guardian paper, it says party politics by court orders hot internal democracy, says opposition.
All right. Doc, I'll bring you right into this, but we'll take a look at the Nation newspaper, which rightly says electricity subsidy payment. Federal government to share costs with states, councils. Now, the federal government no longer want to bear the burden of electricity subsidy alone. They want a situation where it is shared among the various federating units, the subnational, the local governments as well. What's your opinion on this shared burden, and is it the right way for Nigeria in terms of sustaining the affordability of electricity in Nigeria? Because we know that what we are paying is subsidized. Without that, we won't be able to maintain both the GENCOs, the DISCOs, and availability of power in Nigeria.
Yes, I think I heard you well. When my friend was doing his analysis, he talked about federal system of government being one of the reasons why things have not really, or why things have gone the way it should. Then my question now is, are we really practicing federal system? Do we have real federalism? Now back to your question. If you look at the present federal structure of Nigeria, you have more than 82 items in the exclusive list, leaving 12 or thereabout in the concurrent list. But that should not be. I think we should have more responsibility at the state and local government level. And I believe electricity should be among those items which the state government and even local government should tackle. I don't see federal government has no business in power generation, distribution and supply. And reality has now started showcasing itself. That is why they solemnly started relinquishing part of those items on the list. Many more will come. So at the federal level, at that exclusive list, they should be left with very few items. So that state and other governments that are closer to the people can now tackle those issues that reflecting the peculiarities of these people.
Right.
That is the essence of federalism.
All right, that's quite apt, and we believe that that's equally a way to go. But one thing that is not in doubt is that power, however we handle it, should be stable in Nigeria and equally affordable as well, if I agree with Mr. Rest's position on this very issue. But moving on from the newspaper headlines, I want to bring your attention to other issues in the news this weekend. Two issues before we, bow out. And one of such issues is that we heard in the news yesterday that a high court in Enugu State, Nigeria, has directed the British government to pay 420 million compensation to families of 21 coal miners killed during the colonial era. Mr. Rest, you remember the Eva Valley massacre in 1949 that the music maestro Osadebe sang about, Oluigbo. And I bring you into this conversation where Superintendent F.S. Philip ordered the shooting of laborers, Nigerians, Igbos, who had gone to fend for their daily bread, who staged a protest against what was due to them, their wages, discriminated wages, arrears held by the colonial government.
Well, it is quite a disheartening story. We have woken up from slumber. I remember when Nigeria went for reparation in the days of the old, trying to find out, asking the international community to pay for reparation of taking their brothers and sisters to the foreign countries to work in their plantations. But today, these people were asking for the welfare as coal miners. And of course, given the challenges in coal mining, they put their lives on the line. Yet, the British colonial masters ordered for their killing. And it was even the black recruited policemen that were ordered to kill their black brothers, and they did. Okay, somebody had been able to come out to go to court and went to court to ask for a kind of reparation or compensation. And about 420 million pounds was the ruling of an Enugu court. Today, I wonder how they will use the instrumentality of international law to get that money to be paid. But beyond just being paid, of course, it is on record that something has been done about the lost. We can call them heroes because these are heroes who were working out the money with which the colonial masters, of course, siphoned to rule Nigeria. And at that time, they had no picture about how to develop Nigeria.
All right. Let me bring Doc into this conversation. You've heard that song, Olibo, by Osadebe,
Yes.
speaking to this very issue.
Yes.
Okay.
I am very happy with that landmark judgment. And a similar thing has happened in Kenya. And British government paid reparation to the affected people. I am so glad that there are records. We have record of all those people that were affected. Because when I was listening to the news, I listened to the names of those that were killed, and also names of those that were affected by bullets, those that had sustained bullet wounds. Just as my colleague here mentioned, that it was even saddening to discover that it was blacks that shot their brothers, and that is natural. Because if you remember the outcome of this Stanley Milgram's theory on morality, I don't want to go into that details now because of want of time. People tend to obey authority figures to the extent that sometimes what they have is, because I know that there is always this dilemma about what you have in you and what is expected from you. So that one is a story for another day. So don't worry about who commanded who and who actually did what was told to do. But I'm so happy British government will pay if the Attorney General of the Federation follows it up.
All right. One thing that is not in doubt here is that this ruling is monumental and symbolic, and will hail the courage of that judge to take such a legal position. Whether the British government pays or not, we believe that the souls of these coal miners would now rest in peace. Equally, on another issue that made the headlines this week is the issue of the Senate rejecting transmission, real-time transmission of results from the polling unit to the IRF. Mr. Rest, you seem not to be excited about this.
How can any Nigerian that knows the situation in Nigeria be excited about a situation like that? You see, some senators came and said that what they agreed upon in the Senate chamber is not exactly what has been inserted in that bill. Nigerians are not happy. And we are calling on the Senate to go back to that bill and put the transmission of result to IREF. Otherwise, these people are people that we have ceded our franchise to represent us, the constituents, and they have gone there to sabotage what we believe in. It is only that that will give us free, fair, and credible election, so that what happened during the 2023 election, where the Supreme Court was unable to rule on whether it is a nullity, because the responsibility was that of discretionary responsibility of INEC. Let it be a law so that INEC will have no cause to give any reason whatsoever for the ineptitude that read its head in 2023 elections.
All right. You feel that the senators, the legislators, are scared of giving the backing of law to transmission?
Because they are fair, they are corrupt, I allege. They are corrupt, I allege. If they are not. We did a law on taxation.
Okay.
And the controversy is still raging on. That what they did in taxation was not exactly the will of the legislators. So, and now we have yet another. So, why would anything?
Tax bill was not the will of the legislators.
Yes,
but the Electoral Amendment Act is the will of the legislators.
Yeah, I said what was in the tax law was not the will. The will of the legislators in the tax law was not included.
Yes.
And now
but this time
the
around,
will of the senators was not included. The will is for transmission to IREF, but it's not included. That's exactly what they are saying. And of course, the Senate president denied it. And of course, some senators came with the Hello Shepherd and granted interview. People like Abaribe,
yes, people
Abaribe, like Abdul Dingi,
yes,
and all that. They have already said this is what we said. Transmission, not transfer.
Okay.
The word transmission and transfer are different things. When you say transfer, it remains in the purview of INEC, and it remains something that is discretionary. They have to use that discretion, and when it is so, it does not have the force of the law.
All right, Doc. Let me get your opinion on this before we go.
Thank you. Just like every other Nigerian that is objective, I am not happy. I am highly pained that at this period we should still be, because we knew what happened. Why the previous election ended the way it did. Why are we still battling with this automatic transmission that has been? And even if you look at it, you see that it is still late, because the voting itself is not electronic. You vote manually and you now go and count it and now transmit the result electronically. If really we want to get it, why I am so angry is that in as much as we are late, we should just manage what we have now. Go by this electronic transmission. By next time around, we should be talking about electronic voting, because electronic voting will transmit automatically. That is where we should be, and not transmitting after voting. Do you understand? So they don't have any option. Nigerians will wait for them, and this may mar the credibility of this election. That is just that.
All right. We are told there will be a harmonization between the House of Rep and the senators. And we hope that within that period, the damage control will see to it that there is a legal backing to transmission from the polling unit to the IRF. And that's the much we can take for today on the week in retrospect.
Yes, and that is all for today's week in retrospect. Please do not forget to follow us or drop an hashtag using retrospect on our social media platforms: Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or ANEKE TV, or call our phone number 070-3043-7110. It's always a pleasure having you. I am Deborah Wakuba.
Right, and Dr. Imagu, it's a pleasure having you on the week in retrospect. Thanks for those heated arguments. We'll see how passionate you are about Nigeria, and it can be hidden. Thank you for coming to the week in retrospect.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
All right, and to our able in-house analyst, Mr. Ress, it's a pleasure to always have you around. You know that confidence that comes from having you around.
Thank you. And in ANEKE TV, we want to make you move with the world.
All right, and I still your host, Uche Osai. Till we come your way, same time next week. Stay tuned to ANEKE TV. Bye-bye.
Need advert placements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. ANEKE TV, move with the world.